Good morning and welcome to Coffee with Chris. During this extra time at home that everybody's having, where they can't spend any of their free time out and about socializing in a traditional sense, some of us may find ourselves binge watching some shows. The show that Hannah and I have been binge watching lately is MasterChef. And if you've never seen the show, basically it's kind of like it's a competition, right? It's a baking and cooking competition. It's a culinary competition, and it's judged by some high-ranking chefs, and they give their feedback on the dishes as they go. And then roughly every 1 to 2 episodes, somebody is eliminated from that competition until there's only one master chef done. The reason I bring that up is because it's interesting to watch the strategic ways that the different ones sort of survive the competition. Some of them try and play to their strengths. Some of them try and go outside of the box and try something new. But it's interesting as we're now in sort of the top 10 remaining chefs. There was probably about 20 or 30 to begin with. And we're in the top 10 remaining ones. The ones that are still there are the ones who have adapted to the scenarios and what the scenario requires rather than staying in their comfort zone. As we're all currently faced with a new situation, and the side effects of new situations, whether the things going on in the world right now has affected your job, your home life, in good or bad ways, we need to adapt. We need to take in the situation. I was in a webinar earlier watching about how churches can adapt to these situations, and it's really at a point where we're looking at what's the new normal going to be like. Whether this continues for much longer or not, the world has changed. The world has changed, and we need to be able to adapt. And as believers, and this is something that was emphasized in that webinar, as believers, our mission hasn't changed. God is always going to be our center focus. He always should be, right? The gospel, Jesus, that's still who we're pointing people to. But think of it this way. When you're trying to track your way, right? And you've got a compass. That's always going to point north. It's always going to point north, that compass. But which way how to get to where it's pointing is going to change depending on where you're standing, right? If you're in the middle of a wide open field and it points north, you can just walk straight, right? If you're in the middle of a forest where there's a tree right in front of you and it's pointing you to the tree, you can't just walk into the tree. You've got to walk around it. You've got to find ways to adapt to the situation you're in to get to the same goal that you've always been headed towards. So that's my thought for you today, is how can you adapt in the situation you're in? Sometimes we don't want to adapt. We just try and wait out the situations and say, well, if we wait long enough, things will be back to normal and we won't have to worry. We won't have to adapt. I can stay the same forever. Something that I was told a lot growing up was the only thing that stays the same is change. Things are always going to change, whether we like it or not. But instead of being afraid of the change, let's look at how we can use current circumstances to point people to Jesus in innovative and creative ways. As somebody who does a lot of creative projects, whether it's audio, video, drawing, writing, all these kinds of things, as a kid, I would experiment with a lot of different software for doing audio projects. And because I was just a kid and I didn't have the money to pay for this software, I would often find free demos, limited versions that just let you play with the features, a few of the features. But I would find creative ways to get the results I wanted, even with a limited feature set. And so sometimes those limitations can help us adapt in ways that thrust creativity forward in a positive way. So just think about that today. What creative ways can these limitations help you point people to Jesus? Anyways, God bless.